It's Alix Sabatelli Rager, and welcome to Love in Waves. I don't know which episode this is, and I'm hoping to continue to create a momentum and some coherence and skill in doing this. Today, I decided to just shoot from the hip and literally just turn on the video, give myself 8 to 11 minutes, and share what's on my heart. And I don't even have exactly what's on my heart, but I think what's coming up for me right in this moment is to help people, you and everyone else, to elevate in every way by releasing judgment on others. So if we can look at life as a school and we see that everyone's in the exact grade that they need to be in, but they need to move through the grades in order to graduate, right? So you start as, basically, as an infant, totally dependent. And then you move into crawling and into walking. And then you eventually start to socialize and get programmed and, and all the things come on to us. And we go into more programming as we go into grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, and so on. So if we look at things this way, everyone's exactly where they need to be. If you're in 8th grade, you're not going to look at a 2nd grader and judge them because they don't understand what you understand at 8th grade. It doesn't make you better. It just means that you're a little bit further along in your journey. And in a lot of ways, this is kind of how we are in life, right? So as we grow and we are programmed, largely programmed by our environment, by school, by media, news, everything around us, our family, our parents, the beliefs that we hold for ourselves, the traumas that we've experienced, all of these things create, a whole other layer on top of what we're learning, what we're actually learning, what the lessons that we're not just stuffing down, but we're actually growing and learning from. And quite frankly, most adults, the vast majority of adults are stuck in 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade. Not as a judgment, it's just a reality that as we layer all of this clouded distortion of the programming and the way we think and the stuck traumas and so on, it keeps us in a bandwidth of survival, of wanting constantly to reach outside of ourselves into the environment around us to control situations, to get outcomes that we want, because we haven't yet learned the maturity of taking self-responsibility, really radical self-responsibility for the experience we're having. And we haven't yet learned in those lower grades that our outside world is truly a reflection of our inside world. So as more and more people are learning about the law of attraction, for instance, and they're trying to create, they're still trying to create something in their outer reality without changing the inner world. And you're not going to get that imprint. It's using it's using force versus the power of being connected and actually generating from within. Using force is to rearrange everything that's already been created and try to hold that in place with lots of mind power and all kinds of, manipulation. And then we get frustrated because we can't keep that in place. And there's all these other factors. And we identify so much with the results of that it just keeps us in this lower place. And we layer on more and more and more beliefs and fears and control mechanisms and so on. So that's really why these different consciousness levels are so hard to get out of, right? To jump from one to the next. So what I'm feeling right now to share is this judgment, this idea of judgment, because one of the best ways that you can begin to move your way out of a 2nd grade and move into 3rd grade and into 4th grade is to stop judging the people that are not seeing things the way you're seeing things. Because you're looking at life through the lens, your perspective, which is perfectly valid for you. You're looking through the lens of your experience thus far and how you have judged your experience based on all the different things that have happened in your life and the programming that you have. And, your experience is totally valid. You are a fractal of the all. And your perspective is part of the hologram of the oneness of what we all really are. You're just a fractal of it. So you are a unique perspective. It is valid. But your perspective is going to vary from every other person's. And to have to be right about your perspective and make someone else wrong is judgment. And it does nothing for anyone. It holds you back. It holds them back. And it keeps you in lower frequencies of frustration, of even shame and guilt, and it can be pride, it can be controlling, all these different levels that keep you from tipping out of that where it takes force to generate your life, moving into power. So I'll pull out my handy little thing, my little scale. The fulcrum point, the tipping point, and I am going to do a video on this because I have some notes about this. The tipping point from power versus force, and this is all based on David R. Hawkins, PhD, his teachings. I've read all of his books 3 times at this point. Absolutely fabulous work. And to move from having to force things to happen in life to power, where you're tuned into a higher consciousness level that has now got its own will. This is a down spiral. This is when you're below the 200 mark of courage, you have a gravity that's pulling you down. You're further and further in separation consciousness, and you're not being fueled as well because of all the distortions that are just clouding your light. It's like weighing you down and it's drawing you down. Whereas when you get connected at that fulcrum point, you start to up spiral and you have a stronger spiritual will. And the key is to go from pride, which is the last sort of point of I'm right, you're wrong, judgment, to courage. I have the courage to see things differently. I have the courage to not have to fight to be right. And just that little thing, and humility is really a big part of that. I don't have to be right means I can be humble. I can be, and that doesn't mean weak. It just means I don't have to inject my opinion on someone else. Now imagine you're in grade 5 and you're working with, or you've got another adult right across from you who's in grade 2. They can't see what you see. They haven't learned what you've learned. Their soul has not progressed to the level that yours has. It doesn't make you better. Again, it just means you're a little bit further evolved in that spiritual intelligence, in that emotional intelligence, in that I can't think of the word right now. Basically, I just want to say in your understanding of yourself, right? And then that moves up from there to a willingness to step further into the unknown, because it takes courage to go into the unknown of maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not right, or maybe they're right. But to not have to have an opinion about it and to let them be where they are and let yourself be where you are takes courage, and it takes a willingness to accept what is and to not judge that person for being where they are. You wouldn't judge a 2nd grader if they didn't understand what you did at 5th grade, right? Or college or wherever you are. So I just want to give you this idea that everybody's doing the best they can from the level they're at. And so there's an innocence to that. We're all innocent in that. And just because they can't see what you see, because when you get in the higher grades, you can see everything in all the lower grades. But when you're in the lower grade, you can't necessarily see what's in the higher grade. And we have people fighting on every level of society, every single left, right, up, down, they're fighting from the view point that they can see that this one can't see. And they're not going to meet until there's a level of stepping into the unknown, accepting, not judging, and having the courage to do that. And the grace in that, the humility in that, will up your entire frequency and start to move you into the next grade. And so much more will be revealed to you when you're willing to not hold so tight to those identities that you've taken on for yourself. These different belief systems now can become challenged, and you might be able to see things from new perspectives. And that enriches your whole life and your ability to see things different and to communicate with people better and to be in relation with people in a better way. Can you imagine that self-responsibility when you go, wait a second, their position is valid just as my position is valid. I don't need to fight this. How can that transform your relationships immediately? Like huge, right? And how can that up your frequency to where suddenly you're not even fighting with identity, your identity with this way of eating is better than that way of eating. And if I just stay rigid with this programming and this belief that I have about this specific type of food, you're not going to have access to the higher grades of possibility for yourself until you stop the judgment, until you stop clinging and holding on to the things that are keeping possibilities from you. We just don't know what we don't know. So take the self-responsibility to get present, be in control of your inner world, which will then reflect in your outer world, a whole new reality for you, step by step by step, grade by grade by grade. So I hope that this sinks in a little bit. Please like, subscribe, and ask me questions and comment as you like if this is resonating with you. And I will see you next time on Love in Waves.